My dad handed me a bill at Christmas, $8,400. Your share of the family vacation we're planning. I said, I wasn't invited. He smiled. You're paying, not attending. Your sister's kids need this. I wrote the check. To a lawyer. When they boarded the plane and their cards declined at the airport, Christmas dinner at my dad's house always had a schedule. Coats on the bed. Shoes lined up like soldiers. My sister's kids running laps through the hallway while the adults pretended the noise didn't make their heads pound. I should have known something was off the second I saw the matching Valkyrie 2026 sweatshirts folded on the back of the couch. 3 of them. All kid sizes. None in my daughter's size. My daughter, Nora, stood by the tree with her hands behind her back, rocking on her heels the way she did when she was trying to be brave. She was 9. Quiet. Polite. The kind of kid who says excuse me to the dog. She'd worn the green dress she picked out herself. She'd even curled the ends of her hair because she wanted to look like a real grandkid. That sentence still makes my throat tighten. Dinner ended the way it always did. Plate scraped. My sister, Beth, accidentally forgot to bring the salad she promised. My dad poured himself a second drink before the pie was even cut. Then he did the thing he loved most. He made an announcement. He stood up in the living room like he was about to hand out medals. Beth's kids lined up without being told. They knew the routine. My dad liked to give gifts in a certain order. Like it proved something. He held up 3 white envelopes. Not Christmas envelopes. Airport envelopes. The kind with bold print and a little airline logo in the corner. Beth's oldest, Tanner, got one. He ripped it open and screamed because it was a printed itinerary. Plane tickets. His name in big letters. Family vacation. Beth's middle, Kenzie, got one. Same reaction. Same squeal. Beth's youngest, Milo, got one and immediately started flapping it around like a bird. Everyone laughed. My dad smiled like he'd invented joy. Then he looked at Nora. He didn't hand her an envelope. He just nodded at her like she was an extra in the scene. Nora's smile stayed on her face for a second too long, then slid off in a way that made my hands go cold. She glanced down at the floor and fiddled with the ribbon on her dress. I waited for my dad to say her name. He didn't. He cleared his throat, turned toward me, and slid a 4th envelope across the coffee table. This one was thicker, heavier, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I figured it's best to be upfront. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. Neat. Like a bill from a dentist. $8,400. Your share. Under it, in smaller print, a breakdown. Flights. Resort. Car rental. Park tickets. Emergency fund. Even souvenirs for the kids. My share. I stared at it, so long the numbers started to blur. I looked up. What is this? My dad's eyes flicked to Nora for half a second, then back to me. A family vacation, he said, like I was the slow one. We're planning it. I swallowed. I wasn't invited. Beth made a little noise in her throat, like a warning. Like I was about to embarrass her. My dad didn't even blink. He smiled. Not warm. Not awkward. Confident. You're paying, he said. Not attending. Your sister's kids need this. For a second, the room felt too quiet. I could hear Nora's shoes squeak against the hardwood as she shifted her feet. I could hear the Christmas lights buzzing on the tree. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. I forced my voice to stay level. So you bought tickets for Beth's kids, and you made a budget, and you decided my role was, what? Sponsor. My dad shrugged. You do well for yourself. Beth jumped in fast. Dad, don't make it sound like that. Larry, it's just, you know how hard it's been. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. How hard it's been, in my family. Always translated to, Larry will handle it. Nora took a tiny step closer to me. Her hand brushed my sleeve. I looked down and she whispered, so quiet I barely heard it. Did I do something wrong? And that was it. Not the bill. Not my dad's smirk. Not Beth acting like this was normal. That question, from a kid who had already worked so hard to be small. My throat tightened. My hands shook, but I kept my face still. I bent down, kissed the top of her head, and whispered back, no, you didn't. Then I stood up and folded the paper once, carefully, like I was putting away something sharp. My dad watched me like he expected a fight. I didn't give him one. I just said, I'll think about it. And I took Nora's coat from the chair. Beth's eyes widened. Larry, don't. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't knock over a decoration. I just left. Nora held my hand so tight in the driveway that my fingers went numb. In the car, she stared out the window the whole ride home, blinking fast like she was trying not to cry. I drove with my jaw clenched, thinking about every time I'd convinced myself my dad was old-fashioned or set in his ways. as if that made cruelty less real. And I kept seeing those 3 white envelopes. And the empty space where Nora should have been. I'm Larry. I was 39 then. I lived in a 2-bedroom rental outside Columbus. I worked as a journalist, local investigative stuff, city contracts, corruption stories, that kind of work that makes you unpopular at parties but helps you sleep at night. Nora came into my life 2 years earlier. She wasn't my biological kid. She was my late wife's niece. After my wife died, Nora bounced around between relatives who meant well but treated her like an inconvenience. I stepped in because I couldn't stand the thought of her growing up feeling unwanted. I adopted her, not because I was trying to make a statement, because she was already mine in every way that mattered. My family acted supportive at first. They used the right words. They brought a casserole. They told people at church how generous I was. But the tone shifted fast. Nora didn't match their picture. She didn't share my last name originally. She didn't have Beth's kids' loud confidence. She didn't call my dad Grandpa in a booming voice. She called him Sir for the first month because she didn't know what she was allowed to call him. My dad pretended not to notice her. Beth treated her like a guest who stayed too long. And I kept trying. Because that's what I always did. I tried to earn love in my family with effort. And money. It didn't start with big asks. It started with little ones. Can you cover Dad's prescription this month? He'll pay you back. Can you help with Milo's braces? Insurance is being weird. Can you put the plane tickets on your card? We'll Venmo you. They always said we. They always meant me. Over the years, I paid for my dad's new water heater when his finally gave out. It didn't finally give out. He just liked a nicer model. Beth's minivan down payment after she cried at my kitchen table about needing something safe for the kids. The family phone plan, because my dad liked the idea of one bill and Beth liked the idea of not paying it. A week of groceries more times than I can count, because Beth would text, "Don't tell Dad," but we're low until Friday. I didn't keep a spreadsheet because I didn't want to feel bitter. But after that Christmas, I did the math. It was ugly. Over about 3 years, I'd poured somewhere between $22,000 and $25,000 into my family in quiet ways. Not gifts. Not treating them. Plugging holes. Because if I didn't plug them, they'd call me selfish. And the entire time, Nora stayed a +1. A kid whose name was spelled wrong on place cards. A kid whose stocking got forgotten until my mom cut her name out of printer paper and taped it on. A kid who got told, "Go play in the other room, sweetie," whenever adults were taking pictures. I swallowed it. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. I told myself, they'll come around. But the truth was, the more I gave, the more comfortable they got treating me like a utility. Like a checking account with a heartbeat. That Christmas bill wasn't sudden. It was the end of a pattern. My dad had been furious the year before when I refused to co-sign a loan Beth wanted for a bigger place. I told him no. Calmly. Firmly. Not because I wanted Beth to struggle. Because I'd seen how she treated money. How she treated consequences. My dad took it personally, like my refusal was disrespect. After that, the little slights started stacking up. Nora didn't get invited to Cousin's Day at Beth's. Nora wasn't included in the group chat photo dump because it was too many pictures already. Nora's birthday card from my parents was addressed to Nina. Twice. When I corrected them, my dad laughed and said, "You know what I meant." And I let it slide. Because it was easier than starting a war. Until the bill. Until you're paying, not attending. Until Nora asked if she did something wrong. That was my last straw. Because it wasn't just about a vacation. It was about what the vacation represented. A family event where they planned to make memories and take pictures and post captions like "blessed." And my child wasn't part of that family, unless my money was. The next morning, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table while Nora watched cartoons in her pajamas. She laughed at something on the screen, and it sounded thin, like she was forcing it. I stared at the bill again. $8,400. My dad had the nerve to price out souvenirs like it was a line item. I didn't call him. I didn't text Beth. I opened my laptop and searched for the lawyer my coworker had used during her divorce. Not because I was getting divorced. Because I needed someone who wasn't emotionally tangled in my family to tell me what I could do, cleanly, legally. Final. Her name was Priya Patel. Her office was in a brick building downtown with a lobby that smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. When I called, her assistant asked what I needed. I heard myself say, "I need to separate finances from family." The words came out steady, even though my hand was shaking. They gave me an appointment for that afternoon. I used a sick day. I didn't tell anyone. I drove downtown with the bill in my pocket like it weighed 10 pounds. In Priya's office, she didn't flinch when I laid the paper on her desk. She read it once, then looked up at me. Do you have any joint accounts? She asked. I nodded. One checking account with my dad. It's old. He convinced me to open it for emergencies after my mom died. Any shared credit lines? I swallowed. My dad is an authorized user on one of my cards. Beth is on another. I added them years ago for family emergencies. Priya's face didn't change, but her voice went very calm. Authorized users can be removed, she said, and joint accounts can be closed or restructured, depending on the agreement. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Then I asked the question that made my stomach twist. If I stop paying, will it blow back on me? Priya leaned back slightly. Not if we do it correctly. The goal is to protect you and your child, and to make it hard for them to keep treating you like the bank. My chest tightened at the word child, because that was the point. I wasn't doing this to punish them. I was doing this to protect Nora. Priya slid a retainer agreement across the desk. The amount at the bottom was almost the same as the bill. I stared at it, then laughed once, short and bitter. She raised an eyebrow. I said, my dad handed me a bill for $8,400. I'm about to spend $8,400. Priya didn't smile. She just nodded like she understood exactly. I wrote a check. Not to my father. Not to my sister. To a lawyer. And when I handed it over, my hand stopped shaking, because it felt like choosing my own spine. That night, after Nora went to bed, I sat on the couch with my laptop open and did what my family had never expected me to do. I took control. I logged into my banking app. I stared at the joint checking account with my dad, an account I'd used for years to transfer money when he texted need help. The balance wasn't huge, but it didn't matter. It was symbolic. It was a leash. I clicked into the account settings and started the process to close it. The app asked me to confirm, then confirm again. It warned me. Closing a joint account may require both parties. I took screenshots. Then I called the bank's customer service line and asked for a supervisor. I kept my voice flat. My father and I share this account. I need my name removed. The supervisor asked me questions, verified my identity, put me on hold twice. My heart pounded the whole time. Finally, she said, we can restrict withdrawals and require dual authorization for any transfers until this is resolved. I said do it. A confirmation email hit my inbox a minute later. Then I moved to the credit cards. The first one, my dad's authorized user status, took less than 5 minutes. I clicked Manage Users. I hovered over his name for a second. Not because I doubted myself, because I could practically hear his voice in my head. After everything I've done for you. I clicked Remove. The site asked, are you sure? I clicked Yes. Confirmation screen. Then Beth's card. She was on my travel card, my work trips and hotels card. I had added her when Milo was born early, and she'd cried about hospital bills. She'd promised she'd never use it unless she asked. She used it anyway. I'd caught charges for Target and a nail salon once. She'd laughed it off. It was an accident. I grabbed the wrong one. Sure. I removed her too. 2 confirmation emails. 2 severed cords. Then I turned off autopay on the family phone plan I'd been covering. I transferred Nora's phone number to a separate plan under my name only. I did it all like I was filing a story. Step by step. Screenshots. Receipts. Not emotion. Just facts. When I finally closed my laptop, it was after midnight. My living room was quiet. The Christmas tree lights blinked like nothing had changed. But I felt different. Not angry. Clear. The next morning, my phone started lighting up. First my dad. Then Beth. Then my dad again. I let them go to voicemail while I made Nora oatmeal. She came into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Are we still going to Grandma's for Christmas brunch? She asked, careful. I crouched beside her. No, I said. Not this year. Her face tightened for a second, like she was bracing for disappointment. Then she asked, did I mess up? I shook my head. You didn't mess up. They did. She stared at me like she didn't fully understand, but she wanted to. So I kept it simple. You don't have to be where you're not treated kindly. Her shoulders lowered a little, like her body had been holding something heavy. Oh, she whispered. Then she asked, can we make pancakes instead? Yeah, I said. We can make pancakes. While Nora mixed batter, I checked my voicemail. My dad's first message was all fake calm. Larry, call me back. We need to finalize the vacation payments. Beth's was sharper. Are you seriously doing this? The kids are counting on you. Then my dad again, voice tight now. I tried to use the card to finish paying the airline fees. It declined. Fix it. No, please. No, what's going on? Just an order. I deleted the voicemails. Then I got a text from my Aunt Diane, my dad's sister. Your dad is spiraling. What happened? I hesitated. Then I typed back. He gave me a bill for a vacation I'm not invited to. Nora wasn't included. I'm done. Diane replied. About time. Call me later. That message felt like someone opening a window in a stuffy room. Because Diane had always been the one adult in my family who saw the dynamic for what it was. By the time New Year's rolled around, the vacation was still happening. Not because I paid, because my family was stubborn. Beth posted vague stuff online about hard seasons and people showing their true colors. My dad told anyone who would listen that I was being manipulated by that kid. That's what he called Nora. Not my daughter. Not his granddaughter. That kid. Then, 2 weeks later, on a Monday morning, my phone buzzed again. Beth. 3 missed calls. A text that read, "What did you do?" Then another. "We are at the airport." Then another. "The cards are declining." I stared at the screen for a long second. Nora was eating cereal at the table, humming to herself while she colored a picture of a penguin. Normal life. The life I was protecting. My phone rang again. Dad this time. I answered, not because I wanted to argue, but because I wanted one clean sentence. "Larry," my dad snapped, no greeting. "Fix your card." "It's not my card," I said. "It's connected to your account," he barked. "It was," I said. "You're not on it anymore." Silence. Not shock. Rage loading. Then he said, low and dangerous, "You can't do that." "I can," I said. And I did. In the background, I heard airport noise. Announcements. Rolling suitcases. A kid whining. Beth's kid, I guessed. My dad hissed. "We're at the counter. The agent is looking at us like we're criminals." I didn't respond. He pushed harder. "The kids are here, Larry." I looked at Nora. She was still humming, still coloring, still peaceful. I said, "So is mine." Beth's voice cut in, loud and panicked. "Dad said you were still paying." "Larry, you can't do this right now." "I didn't agree to pay," I said. "I wasn't invited." Beth made a frustrated sound like she was trying to chew through a wall. "You're punishing the kids." I kept my voice steady. "No, I'm stopping a pattern." My dad exploded then. "You're as selfish." I didn't let him finish. I said the sentence I'd practiced in my head 100 times. "I won't fund a family my daughter isn't part of." Then I hung up. My hands were shaking after, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From doing something I'd never done. Choosing my child over their comfort. Later, I learned what happened at the airport from Diane, because Diane had friends everywhere and a mouth that didn't stay quiet. My family had gotten to the gate with their rolling bags and matching sweatshirts. They tried to check luggage. Declined. They tried a different card. Also declined, because Beth had been leaning on my travel card for extras without even realizing she was doing it. They tried to pay the resort deposit online. Declined. My dad had apparently turned red, then purple, then started demanding to speak to someone in charge, like the airline had personally betrayed him. And because my dad was my dad, he doubled down instead of adjusting. He told the airline agent, loud enough for strangers to hear, that his son always pays. As if that was a legal argument. The agent didn't care about my family's tradition of using me. She cared about payment. No payment, no luggage. No resort deposit, no check-in. No car rental, no keys. Beth's husband started yelling at Beth. Beth started crying. Tanner started whining that they were ruining everything. And my dad, in the middle of all of it, kept saying, "This is Larry's fault." They still boarded the plane, apparently, because the tickets were purchased already. But they landed with no rental car, no hotel confirmation, and a resort that wouldn't hand over room keys without the deposit. They spent hours in a lobby arguing, calling people, trying to transfer money between accounts like it was a magic trick. And for the first time in years, they didn't have my account to lean on. The consequences weren't dramatic. No one got arrested. No one got harmed. They just hit the wall of reality. And reality didn't care about my dad's entitlement. The fallout came fast. My dad showed up at my house 2 days after they returned, pounding on the door like he owned it. Nora was in her room, doing homework. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me. My dad's face was tight, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. "You embarrassed me," he said. I didn't argue that point. I just asked, "Did you invite Nora?" He blinked like the question was stupid. "That's not. Did you invite her?" I repeated. He clenched his jaw. "The vacation was for the kids." "She is a kid," I said. He scoffed. "You know what I mean." And there it was. The same line, every time. "You know what I mean." Meaning, not her. I kept my voice calm. "No more," I said. My dad's nostrils flared. "No more what?" "No more money," I said. "No more access. No more bills handed to me like I'm your employee." He tried to step forward. "You owe." "I don't owe." I cut in, still quiet. "I helped because I thought I was part of this family. You made it clear I'm not, unless I'm paying." My dad stared at me like he'd never heard someone speak to him that way. Then he shifted tactics, because he always did. He softened his voice just slightly. You're really choosing her over your blood? I felt something settle in my chest. A clean, cold clarity. I'm choosing my child, I said. That's what parents do. My dad's face twisted. Behind him, Beth's car pulled into my driveway like she'd been waiting down the street. She got out, eyes puffy, mascara smudged. Larry, she said, like my name was a complaint. This is insane. Dad is stressed. The kids were humiliated. I looked between them, and I realized something that made me almost laugh again. Not once had either of them asked how Nora felt. Not once had they said her name. So I said it. Nora heard you, I told Beth. She heard you talk about a kid's vacation like she wasn't one of them. Beth's mouth opened, then closed. My dad snapped. She didn't need to hear adult business. She heard it because you said it in front of her, I said. Beth's voice rose. So what? You're going to cut us off forever. I kept it simple. You're off my accounts, I said. And you're off my calendar until my child is treated like family. My dad scoffed. So you're blackmailing us? No, I said. I'm setting a boundary. My dad looked like he wanted to argue until his throat gave out. Then he did something that surprised me. He glanced past me, toward my front door. Like he wanted to see if Nora was watching. Like he wanted to check if she looked sad. Not because he cared. Because he wanted to be sure she saw his power. I stepped sideways, blocking the view. Don't, I said, quiet but sharp. My dad's eyes flicked back to mine. Leave, I told them. Beth stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, You've changed. I nodded once. Yeah, I said. I had to. They left. Not with an apology. Not with understanding. Just anger and disbelief, like I'd broken a rule they thought I'd follow forever. The calls and texts continued for a while. My dad left voicemails about respect and gratitude. Beth sent paragraphs about how I was punishing children. One cousin messaged to say I was being dramatic. Then Diane called me and said, Ignore them. They're only loud when the wallet walks away. A week later, Nora came home from school with a little paper snowflake she'd made in art class. She held it up like it was a trophy. Can we hang it in the window? She asked. Of course, I said. We taped it up together. Then she climbed onto a chair and added a second one beside it. This one is for us, she said, pointing at the first. And this one is for, like, the people who actually like me. She said it casually, like she was talking about favorite colors. But my chest tightened anyway. I crouched beside her. You're liked, I said. You're loved. She nodded, but she didn't look fully convinced. So I did something small. I pulled out my phone and texted Diane. Nora and I are doing our own little holiday night this weekend. Want to come? Diane replied almost immediately. I'll bring Coco and my loud opinions. That Saturday, Diane showed up with marshmallows and a board game. My neighbor, Mrs. Keller, came too. An older woman who'd watched Nora grow from shy to slightly less shy. We made grilled cheese. We watched a silly movie. We laughed. Nora laughed the most when Diane accidentally cheated at the board game and then defended herself like a lawyer. At the end of the night, Nora fell asleep on the couch with the blanket tucked under her chin. Diane stood in my kitchen while I rinsed mugs. She said, softly, You did the right thing. I didn't say, I know, because part of me still hurt. A part of me still wanted my dad to look at Nora and see what I saw. But Diane was right. Right didn't always feel good. Right just felt steady.